Hello, my name is Christina Ennis, and welcome to the Mineral Resources Review podcast. Jerry, can we start that again?
Sure.
I choked on my air. That's the first time I did that all week. Alrighty. Okay, I'm just gonna say
it's all good.
Hello, my name is Christina Ennis, and welcome to the Mineral Resources Review podcast. Today we're sponsored by New Valley Drilling Company, powered by Gale Force Winds. I'm joined this morning by Steve Piercey with Memorial University. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
So Steve, to kick us off here, can you tell me a little bit about your background and a bit about your role at the university?
Sure. I'm originally from Corner Brook, and I went to university here at Memorial, and then I spent a number of years away, including I went to school in British Columbia, and then spent a bit of time in Ontario, and then about 2007 I moved back home, and I've been here ever since. And at the university, I'm a university research professor in a field called economic geology. So what my background really is teaching students in basic aspects of earth sciences, and then how is it we understand and explore for mineral deposits.
Awesome.
Yes.
And what brings you to the Mineral Resources Review this week?
Well, this is sort of a ritual, and I've been coming here on and off since the mid-90s when I was a student, and anyone that works in the mineral sector, this is sort of one of the highlights of the year in terms of the connection between various aspects of our industry. It's also the place where we get the updates on a lot of things that are happening in the industry, and to be absent from here would be, kind of persona non grata. It's kind of what we expect to do every year here. So,
right.
Yeah.
So you first started coming to this event as a student yourself, right?
Yes, that's right.
Can you speak a little bit about what the benefit kind of has been for you to become involved at that time?
Sure.
But it has obviously been beneficial for your career overall.
Well, I think the big thing as students when they come here, they get to understand the industry, but it's a really important networking event. And so it's really funny. The people that I met, like when I was a student, these are the people that became mentors of yours and that opened doors for you, in many cases employed you. Now as a person at the university, they've funded research projects, they've hired my students, and now my students have gone on and they're in the positions from going through that same cycle to the position of making decisions in our industry. And I think that's one of the most important things about this business is that these events are really important for that networking, but also where students learn how to translate what they had been taught in a classroom to how do we actually use this in the real world. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So within the Department of Earth Sciences,
Yep.
there's a number of different paths you can take, I suppose.
Absolutely.
For a degree, whether it's undergrad or a master's program or otherwise.
Sure.
Can you tell us a little bit about the options within the Earth Sciences realm?
Sure. Our department is really, I would argue, there's four pillars, more or less. There's sort of what they call hard rock or economic geology, and this is really things that are focused on sort of the mining mineral sectors and sort of the fields that are sort of around that.
Right.
There's other ones that are a bit more focused on oil and gas and sort of the resource sector that would be called soft rock, or things like sedimentology, paleontology. There's streams and environmental, which in many cases are trying to understand things like climate change, carbon sequestration, and so on. And then geophysics, which is really focused on how do we use physical properties in the planet and so on and so forth, things like seismic, electricity, to understand earth processes. In many cases, a lot of these disciplines overlap.
Right.
And so all students in our program, at least at the undergrad level, we try to give them a really broad, holistic education where they can get exposure to everything and then decide which career paths they wish to take on.
Right.
At the graduate level, usually what happens is that the master's degree, and I compare master's degrees, they're ways to get extra specialization in an area that you're really interested. So your undergrad is like an appetizer platter, and then a master's says, I'm going to decide to have a steak, or I'm going to have chicken, or I'm going to have vegetarian, or I'm going to have something else. And really that's about getting that next level of skill acquisition and competency acquisition so that you can move to a different point in your career and become a bit more specialized.
Right.
Oftentimes that's the terminal degree for people that are going into industry, and you mentioned your business background. This would be like, I would argue, a geologist MBA, right? In terms of, in the sense that it gives you that extra level of sort of knowledge and so on. And then the people that are really interested in research and development and want to work and sort of become ultra specialized, that's really what the PhD level is for. A lot of my students students go in two career paths from that area. Is they either go into true research and development, they work for the federal government, or they work with R&D in companies, or they take that skill set and use it for specialized knowledge, and then how to apply that in terms of an industrial environment. So
right.
I'd say that of all my PhDs, some of them are university profs, some are feds, and then others are in the industry.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. How long have you been teaching now?
So my first job was in 2001, but I did that for about 7 years,
yes.
And then I left and I worked in the industry for a number of years, for 3 years,
yep.
And then since 2001 to 2008, and then about 2 years I spent in consulting and working in the mineral sector, and then I've been at Memorial almost 15 years.
Almost 15 years.
Yep.
So you must enjoy it.
Absolutely, it's good.
What do you find most rewarding about teaching?
So about teaching, I think is when people get that figure it out, right? And so what ends up happening is you see people, and then all of a sudden, when the neurons connect and they start to figure out things. And then I think the second thing is seeing people's progression coming here and seeing your former students and their successes. I think that's sort of the two things that are really, really rewarding about teaching.
Yep, I feel similar when I come across people that I've maybe recruited for a client and see them growing and doing cool things, and sense of pride in that, hey?
Absolutely. And I think the bigger thing is that our job is sort of you're lighting a spark, and then these folks are setting the world on fire. And frankly, we have a really, one of the things about our department I really appreciate is that it's a community, and it was a community when I was a student, and a lot of the structures that were there in that department at that time,
yep.
Faculty going to the labs and so on and so forth, these kind of things are still part of the culture. And we see the students build that culture and then want to come back and contribute to that. So a lot of the people that, for example, went through with me will now mentor a lot of our students, and that understanding, how do you transition from
right.
like the academic world to the real world. They support things like field trips financially. They hire these people, and I think that's sort of one of the other parts that's really rewarding, is to see the alumni that have gone on and been successful to come back and contribute to our students in various ways.
That's awesome. I remember when I was at university at MUN, that the Earth Sciences societies, clubs and societies, very strong,
yep.
and very very tight-knit group, and it's almost like this is an extension of that.
Absolutely.
There's so many people who've gone through the university too.
Yeah, and if you went and looked at that last session with a bunch of talks, almost every one of those speakers at one point were connected to the Murray Club and are alum of our department.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool that the leaders that are of the industry today came from that department, but also you're seeing the people that have come from behind them that are now the emerging leaders that will be in those places in 5, 6, 7 years.
Right.
And that's also really interesting. There's this I'd argue that our department provides this baseline training with the expectation that those folks will be the bread and butter of our industry. And just a little thing, our regulator is called the Professional Engineers and Geoscientists of Newfoundland and Labrador. Yep. And so if you go through and look at like the statistics, and these stats are a couple years old, but they're generally the same.
Yeah.
Almost 90% of the geoscientists in training have a degree from Memorial, and about 65% of the professional geologists and geoscientists have at least one and sometimes multiple degrees for the institution. So from a purely training people to be prepared for the real world, that's sort of a big part of what we do.
Awesome. Yeah. That's great. So I'm going to ask you two plugs to the university here, Steve.
Yep.
So first is, I've participated in similar events. I'm sure the Earth Sciences faculty has similar opportunities
yep.
for alumni,
yep.
for folks who are involved in the industry,
yep.
to get involved in a mentor capacity, whether it's professional development opportunities or panels or speaking, things like that. If there's employers out there, folks working in the sector, they want to get involved and give back to perhaps where they went to school or
yep.
or here in the province, how can they find more information about that? Who would they talk to?
Talk to one of us at the department. A friend of mine, a colleague of mine, gave a talk the other day and said, our doors are always open. Contact me, contact our department head, and there'll be opportunities. There's already a pretty thin, there's not a big gap between the connections between the people in the industry and us, and yep. so it's probably easiest to go right to our department. Correct. And there's always opportunities.
Awesome. So
yep.
MUN.ca, and go to the Earth Sciences faculty,
yeah.
and there's contact information galore on the Memorial University
Absolutely.
website. If you're a current student, perhaps haven't picked a faculty yet for what you want to do for your degree,
sure.
or perhaps a high school student, or maybe looking at a career change, folks are interested in maybe becoming a student at the Earth Sciences faculty, same thing?
Yeah,
Hop
absolutely.
on the website?
Yeah, and maybe I'll give a plug for Earth Science. One of the big criticisms we have is that we're an old industry, that we are, old dudes with beards, and you've seen people around here,
You don't have
right?
a beard, Steve.
I know, but my point is that one of the messages we're really trying to say is that the door is open for everyone, regardless of who you are. The second thing is there's a variety of career paths. They're not all in remote locations. There's everything from high-tech, AI, technology development to those that actually want to be outside for 6 months of the year.
Right.
And I think that's the thing, is there's a pathway for many, and I think there's a bigger open door, big tent in our business that I've seen continuously grow over the years, and I think that's what I think our success is going to be dependent on, that as an industry.
Right.
And I think anyone that is thinking of this career path, there's many different pathways and ability to accommodate a lot of different interests.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So yes, again, reach out to the department,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I know that the faculty and staff are always more than happy to help folks navigate whether that's the right fit for them, and
Yep.
tell them a bit more about long-term what a career in Earth Sciences might look like.
Absolutely. Excellent.
Anything else you want to add, Steve, before we close
Well,
up?
thank you very much for the
Fabulous.
opportunity.
Thank you so much for joining me, and stay tuned, folks, for more from the Mineral Resources Review.